This podcast episode is based on the book Eminence, The New Standard for Plastic Surgery Marketing by Jen Ahlsten, published by Vitruviani in 2026. Chapter 5: How Visual Design Influences Perception of a Plastic Surgery Practice. The visual presentation of a practice influences whether patients perceive it as a good fit. Sometimes this evaluation is deliberate, such as when a patient recognizes imagery that reflects their age or aesthetic aspirations. More often, the response is immediate and intuitive. The clinic may feel too corporate, too casual, too aspirational, or excessively clinical. Visual identity as market positioning. Design choices across the digital and physical patient-facing materials of a plastic surgery practice are the visual expression of its brand positioning. When executed correctly, design does more than make the practice look appealing and translates the brand's value proposition into a visual form, signaling who the practice is for. A practice seeking to attract discreet facelift patients in their 50s and 60s should look different from a clinic specializing in high-volume body contouring. A surgeon known for subtle rhinoplasty should rely on a different kind of visual language than a practice known for dramatic transformations. A strong visual identity helps aligned patients recognize relevance while reducing interest from those unlikely to be a good fit. This is why brand identity cannot be reduced to personal taste and has to be calibrated to the practice's intended market position. Visual identity influences perception. Patients make assumptions based on visuals, even when they are unaware of doing so. Photography, color palette, composition, typography, and logo design each create immediate associations. Visual design in branding serves the same purpose as personal styling. It translates values and intention into a visual language others read before a word is spoken. Even seemingly minor visual choices affect perception. In 2012, writer and filmmaker Errol Morris ran an informal, large-scale online experiment embedded in a New York Times quiz, gathering responses from over 45,000 readers. Participants read the same passage of text set in different typefaces and were asked whether they agreed with the argument. Those who read the passage in Baskerville, which is a formal and classic font, agreed at a higher rate than those who read it in any other typeface tested. The content was identical, so the typeface appeared to have a small effect on how believable the statement felt. Like any visual cue, different fonts trigger different associations. Traditional fonts imply heritage and formality. Minimalist fonts imply modernity. Similarly, research in associations created by different types of logos found that angular logos are associated with stability and competence, while rounded logos are associated with warmth and approachability. Applied to plastic surgery, a surgeon whose positioning is based on expertise in complex revision cases should look different from one whose brand is positioned around mummy makeovers. The same principle applies to colour. A 2012 study by Lebrecq and Milne, published in the Journal of the Academy of Marketing Science, found that colour hue directly influences perceived brand personality and consumer response. Neutral and muted palettes are often used to suggest sophistication and exclusivity, while bright, saturated colours can create a more energetic or commercial impression. Again, colour should be chosen for the expectation it creates in the specific patient the practice wants to attract. Few elements communicate the character of a practice as immediately as photography. High-quality photography tends to communicate high quality, making a practice appear more modern and established. The opposite is equally true, which is why one of the most important improvements plastic surgeons can make to their online presence is ensuring that every image on their website and social media profiles meets a high visual standard. Photographs of the surgeon help build patient trust. In an exploratory perception study, participants consistently cited professional portraits of physicians as contributing to a stronger sense of trust and confidence when evaluating first impressions across different plastic surgery websites. Before and after photographs might be the most consequential visual asset a practice produces. The following chapter discusses best practices for shooting before and after images to a consistent, high-quality standard. Avoiding generic stock photography in marketing materials help differentiate from the vast majority of competitors. Research by Hagtvert and Patrick found that incorporating fine art into a product's visual presentation increases perceptions of prestige, a finding that extends to the broader principle that refined visual surroundings elevate how a product or service is evaluated. Finally, see composition and spacing of imagery and other elements in contexts such as web design and social media posts also affect whether the practice feels premium or mass market. The complete visual system beyond the logo. Many practices misunderstand visual identity as a modern website or logo design. These matter, but lose their impact if the brand system as a whole is unintentional. A beautiful website loses authority when the Instagram profile feels unconsidered. An elevated business card cannot compensate for a consultation space that fails to reflect the same standard. A coherent visual system across patient touchpoints helps reinforce brand recognition and trust throughout the patient's research phase. Patients considering plastic surgery often move through a prolonged decision-making process and may return to a website several times, forward it to someone whose opinion they value, and repeatedly revisit saved social media posts before booking a consultation. The practice's visual system should create a recognizable standard across patient-facing materials, whether the patient is viewing Instagram Reels or reviewing post-operative instructions on the practice's website. A practice that communicates refined visual judgment through its environment and branding can lead patients to infer that similar discernment may shape clinical decisions and outcomes. For the same reason, a well-dressed consultant tends to be perceived as more capable, and an architect with a carefully designed portfolio inspires greater confidence in their aesthetic judgment. In aesthetic surgery, this cause and effect is significant because the final result depends partly on taste and judgment. Patients may struggle to separate the practice's presentation from its work because both appear to express aesthetic judgment. Eminence is available on Amazon and at Vitruviani.com. Next. Chapter 6. How patients interpret before and after images.